This is to Craig Truglia, who's definitely more of an honest or sensible Protestant than I've usually come across. I am not Protestant, nor am I Catholic. Eastern Eastern Orthodox, but since Ignatius IV of Antioch died, technically I would now be under the Syriac Oriental Orthodox. But anyway, you talk about these problems. The issue you brought up with, I don't know if it was Pope Victor or Felix that Irenaeus wrote to, about the Quarter-Medessians. Whoever brought that up about the Eastern, that was only in part of Anatolia where the Quarter-Medessians were, who were celebrating Pascha on the 14th of Nisan. That wasn't the entire Eastern Orthodox Church. The But I'll get to the main thrust of it. I mean, because you mentioned, oh well, Protestants believe these things too, as they should, like baptism and the presence of God in the Eucharist and all this stuff. Most of the Catholic stuff that I think you're referring to, papal infallibility didn't become official until around the time of the American Civil War, around the First Vatican Council. Second Vatican Council made things even worse. The split has been since 1054, but really since the Council of Trent, things have been irreconcilable between the Roman Catholic Church, which we view as the first Protestant church. Now, you use Augustine of Hippo, which a lot of Protestants do. The Eastern Orthodox, there are many of us that believe he was a Manichaean agent because of predestination and original sin, stuff like that. Some of us will just say he's blessed, and then some of us actually dare to call him a saint. His mother definitely was a saint, but Augustine, yeah, he still had Manichaean influences. The issue is sola scriptura. 2 Thessalonians, Paul says, hold to the traditions, and it's paradosius, the same word that's used when Christ is talking about traditions of men. Hold to the traditions which I have taught you, either by word of mouth or by writing to you. Now, Paul was at Thessalonica for 2 years teaching them, and all we have that remains is 2 letters, 2 epistles. I think one's like 5 chapters, one's 3. Him pastoring them for 2 years. There wasn't more. I believe 1 Timothy. The church is the pillar and support of truth. The New Testament, the Old Testament, in fact, there are different canons wherever you go. Armenia, Ethiopian Orthodox, the Latin West, the Protestant, and even then they're using the Masoretic text and not the Septuagint or what would have the Deuterocanon in there plus more, like Third Maccabees, which the Christians had always used. But the church wrote the Bible, wrote, edited, and compiled the New Testament. Now you quote people like Clement of citing these sources. Well, the church fathers also cite the Shepherd of Hermas, the Didache, the Protevangelion at James, the Acts of Peter, the Apocalypse of Peter. The Moratorian canon lists 2 Peter, 2nd and 3rd John is disputed. And the Apocalypse of John was in both confirmed and spurious categories. Now, the West didn't establish its canon. You used the 39th Paschal letter of Athanasius in AD 367, except he told us to read the Didache, the Acts of Peter, the Shepherd of Hermas, stuff like that, before even touching the New Testament, and the Protevangelium of James as well. It's not till AD 419. Anselm, Augustine, and Aquinas are the fathers of the West that really screwed a lot of things up. You're right. the sacraments, there's either one, zero, or endless amounts. We view baptism, the Eucharist, confession, repentance, all wrapped up in one. So either one, that idea of seven sacraments is a Western thing. If you hear people talk about the East, yeah, we have those seven things, but they're not sacraments. We may call them mysteries, but yeah, what sacrament means, there's either one, zero, or endless. But you have the great hurdle of how did you get that canon? The church put it together. The church was formed at Pentecost, wrote all the scriptures, edited them, compiled them. The Apocalypse of John is a case where in many Eastern churches it's never read. We have it in our canon, but it just showed up one day. What is this? We've never seen it before. You have things like 3 Corinthians that the Armenians have. The fact that the Niceno-Constantinopolitan Creed was established before, or at least the Nicene Council was firmly established before the canon, is a fact. And the Christian faith was strong even when we didn't have a bound, united canon. And what are these traditions? The sign of the cross, facing east when you pray, praying 3 times a day. These were extensively written about. Again, hold to the traditions which not just that I write you in letter, but what I have taught you by word of mouth. And that's why I would ask you, have you actually read these early church fathers? I know you're sticking with Augustine, but the authority lies in the church. That's the only place where the New Testament gets any of its authority, because the church wrote, edited, and compiled the New Testament, right? All right, peace to you. That's the problem in sola scriptura. It's ascriptural and ahistorical. Peace.